Hello there everyone and welcome to Python Basics for the Beginning Enthusiast. I'm hoping that you have come here to learn what Python is, a little bit of coding, and anything that revolves around Python. I'm here to walk you through all the basics, get you started. You can know nothing now, but I will convince you and teach you that Python is the best and you'll be able to do whatever you want with it afterwards. So a little bit about the course. We're going to go through things such as the introduction now, how to get started with all the basics you need to know, followed by things like if statements, loops, variety of functions, and additional libraries. We'll try to have some fun at the end with some additional tools that will be fun, such as web scraping with things like NumPy and Beautiful Soap. So a little bit about myself. I'm a computer engineer. I graduated the computer engineering bachelor's a few years ago. I've been using Python for many years. I'm currently employed as an analyst where I use a variety of Python-like tools to do a lot of coding and analysis for a variety of things. So the point of this project and this course is to teach you how to program in Python, obviously. So at the end of this, hopefully you'll be able to start going off on your own and you'll be able to program a little bit of Python so you can do whatever you want. And like I said, we'll finish up with the final project. Hopefully it'll be fun and you'll try to use all the knowledge you had before in this course and apply it all to something you want to learn. And I'll make sure to walk you throughout the course. So we're going to go through a lot of examples in this. I hope you're ready to learn. I hope you have everything set up, which we'll go through in the next sections. And then if you have any questions, comments, or anything, please let me know, and I will try to help you out as much as possible. As a quick note as well, I'll be showing a variety of documentation and reference websites. I do not claim to own any of that. As you see here, we have the Python website. So they obviously own all of their own Python things. I'm just going to walk you through and make sure that you know how to use everything. So keep in mind the links and additional information will be provided in the course notes as we move forward. All right, let's move on. So why are you here and why did you choose Python? Hopefully none of you are afraid of snakes because this is going to have a lot of references to Python and a lot of funny Python jokes. So you see here at the top left corner that the Python symbol is actually two snakes involved together. Personally, I'm afraid of snakes, but I love the language Python. So there are a ton of many different languages out there. A lot of them have different features. They're all used for different things, and each has their strength and weakness. So they're pretty much all the same. They basically have the same structures and underlying information. You can move from language to language pretty easily, but a lot of them are specialized for certain things. For instance, you can do a lot of web development, or you can do desktop applications, you can do mobile applications, you can do little functions here and there, and every single website that has all of the information you need is different and based off of a different language. So Python is actually known for being simple and easy to use. As you just saw here, it is labeled as quick and easy to learn. So it's oftentimes used as the first language of many learners because it's pretty much just like the English language. So you can do code with some simple syntax, which is the grammar and structure of the programming language, and move on from there. So, as I said, everyone likes to learn Python first because it's very useful and very simple. There's a lot of stuff that is outside of other languages. For instance, some languages, if you're familiar, you have to end every single line with a semicolon. So just that by itself gets really annoying, and a lot of other things have like start and end brackets. But here in Python, it's very simple. As you see here, you have one line to print whatever you want. Pretty simple, mostly just English there. So, as I said, you don't need all the extra stuff, and it's very fast and at programming. So on the other side, there are some downfalls. It might be quick to program, but the actual execution speed isn't that fast. Languages such as C or Java are much faster to actually execute the code. And a lot of the stuff I'm saying is from my knowledge, but I'll make sure to go through and define everything for you well as we continue through the course. Python you would not use for the creation of mobile applications. There are much better languages out there, such as Swift, which is Apple's language for iOS development. And you just won't see an application out there for your phone on Python as of now. It's just not what it's used for. Python is basically used for things like data mining, parsing words, text-based analytics, a lot of deep learning and machine learning applications. That's what Python's specialty is. It is object-oriented like a lot of other languages, but it's focused on making it simple to parse through and read through a lot of information. So a lot of people do prefer Python over other languages. As you can see in a lot of job applications and on the news and a lot of things that companies are using, Python is the up-and-coming language. So it's a buzzword to know Python on your resume. A lot of people are looking for it now. A lot of high-tech software companies are trying to get you to use Python. It is very beneficial for some things, but again, every language has its downfall, and there is no perfect language. Alright, so now we'll get into how to download and set everything up. So it might be a little tricky at first, but I'll walk you through everything you need to know. And we'll get started on the main page. So if you just Google Python, you should get to python.org. This is their main site, and you'll have everything you need here. So what we'll do is we'll go to downloads, and you'll see all releases and broken down by specific platforms and things like that. So we're just going to click generally on downloads here, and then we're going to go to Windows because that's what I have right now, and then you get led to this nice downloads page. So as you see here, we have two options. If you scroll down, you'll actually see every single version of Python ever created. So if you need a very specific version, you can download that. And it goes all the way back to 2001, even though Python 1 actually started before then. So that is no longer available. All right, if you scroll all the way back up to the top, we're going to go with version 3.54. In general, it is very bad practice to always go with the absolute newest release. So the newest release is obviously the best language because it's been updated, but then again, it also has a lot of bugs that might be problematic to your programming. So we're going to start with 3.54. So 3.5 is often used with many other technologies and is the most supported. So like I said, you don't want to go with the newest. You want to go with a few languages back because it'll give you the most tools later on. A lot of times if you make a new language, other tools are not automatically updated to this language, so there are changes that you need to make. So updating to the brand new version might actually break some of your other programs. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to click on Python 3.5.4, and in a few seconds you should get the download here. So if you scroll down, you get all the notes, you have all the files here. And now this is based entirely on what you're using. So I'm using a Windows computer, so you want to pick x86 or x86-64. If you have Linux, you would then download it through the Linux terminal or using a install package such as apt-get. If you have Mac, you have the Mac installer here, but we'll focus on Windows, and you can always check if it's 64 or not. There's also a little bit of description here, but for now we're just going to click the generic 86 executable installer, so that'll start downloading now. So once you start downloading this, we'll see that there's a few key things that you want to do. I already have Python downloaded, so I'm not going to go through the whole downloading process to save you some time. But the most important thing you need to do is there's a little checkbox at the bottom when you first get the installer open that says Add Python to Path. And you need to make sure you click that because it'll automatically add Python to your system variables. And that allows you to reference everything properly, and your computer will know what to do and where to do it. So that's something you won't have to do yourself, and it makes it a lot easier on you if you just click that little checkbox. If you don't, that's fine. You can always find out how to add it to the path separately via Google, but it's probably best just to do it now. So what happens when you download? It might seem like you don't actually have anything, but if you type in Python, you'll see that you got this little Python shell. It's called Python idle. If you type in Python here, you'll see idle 3.5, 32-bit. And what this is actually where you can code. It automatically gives you a little bit, this little editor, and you can type in lines one by one. So I know you may not know how to program yet, but I'll just quickly type that in to show that it automatically works line by line there. And we'll take a look at that later. So what I'll go into a little bit later on is seeing what you want to use. If you want to use a text editor or if you want to use this idle shell. For things that are very simple, for instance 3 plus 3, it'll automatically do the result there. If you want to, however, write a bigger program, you're going to need a text editor and a command line prompt or terminal. So I'll go into all that now. Don't worry about it. For now, you've successfully uploaded that, and it's working for you there. So just type in any command, try to do 1 plus 2. Obviously that should be 3, so you can make sure it's working there. So the other things I mentioned are text-based text editor. So in my case, I use Sublime Text 3, which you can see here. And Cygwin is the terminal for Windows. So both these links are available in the additional notes. You don't have to use what I'm using now. These are just my preferred tools, and they work very well for Windows. If you're using Linux, for instance, the terminal will already be built in, and there's already a text editor as well. So some of these things are saved with Linux, but most people do not have Linux OS, and you can easily download these additional tools. Another tip, if you're trying to run in your Cygwin, is, as mentioned in the comments, is try Python or Python-I in the command line to see if it works. So if you see here, we do Python-I, Python-I, and you'll automatically get the same thing. You can do 1 plus 2, and you get 3. So I'll get a little bit more into that as we move along. All right, so you may have noticed on the main page that there was a Python 3 and a Python 2. So if we go back to the downloads, here we go, 2.7 and 1.14. So what this is actually 2 separate versions of Python that have been used. 2.7 was obviously the line of 2s right after 1, and it is actually older than 3. But so many people were using the 2.x suite that a lot of people wanted it to stay. So the makers of Python actually continue to update. As you can see here, the latest update was in September, but the version 2 is actually known as Legacy. So what Legacy is actually old, right? Legacy means it's old, it's been long gone, but they're continuing to make small updates. So there won't be anything new. They're not going to add any new functionality, but they'll make sure bugs are fixed and the people that are using it will continue to use it. So if you had an application from about 5 years ago, you can still have 2.7 if you want that, if you don't want to switch over to 3. So this is pretty hard when you have a lot of programmers and a lot of applications on Python 2. You don't necessarily want to move to Python 3, but you should eventually. So as I said, 3.6.3 is the newest, but you don't want to get the newest version, so 3.5 is the most worldly available, and all tools usually reference 3.5 and recommend 3.5 as well. So, as I said, all of these that are Python 2 will eventually be deprecated, which means will stop being supported. So any kinds of bugs or additional information, there won't be any updates, so eventually everything will actually phase out Python 2. So a couple of differences here. Python 3 has a funky new function, so it uses print as a function now. So we'll see later on. You used to be able to write print and then type whatever you want, but that no longer works in Python 3. You have to put the parentheses there. So one of the funny little changes, a lot of people actually get very mad about this and don't use Python 3 because of this, but of course there are lots of benefits to using Python 3 anyways. So we'll keep on using Python 3. I'll teach you Python 3 as it's the most common, and you should start with the newer versions instead of going back in time. So unless you have an application from many years ago, we're going to focus on using Python 3. So stay with me. We will get into section 2, learning all the basics, and move on from there. Stay tuned for more information.